You could tell how worried she was about her baby. Unique had just given birth and she could tell something was wrong.
The animal kingdom is filled with jaw-dropping birth patterns that defy logic and expectations. Some of these births are so unusual that if they hadn't been captured on camera, they'd seem too wild to be real. From the octopus that dies after bringing her offspring to life to the velvet spider that gets eaten by spiderlings after they hatch, the animal kingdom never fails to amaze. But none of these could prepare you for what we're about to reveal next. Stay tuned because you won't believe what this horse gave birth to. The rare births of horses. With its sleek body, flowing mane, and intelligent eyes, horses are majestic creatures. Like humans, reproduction is necessary for the continuity of every species, and birth is never easy. Usually, horses give birth to just one baby called a foal after about 11 months of pregnancy. But what if a horse gives birth to 2 or even 3 foals? It's rare and unusual, and when this happens, it's almost always surprising and very risky. Why? This is because horses are not made to carry twins or triplets. Their bodies are designed to focus on one baby, because it gives the foal the best chance of being born healthy and strong. A single foal gets all the space, nutrients, and care it needs, making it better equipped for life. So when 2 foals are growing inside the womb, there simply isn't enough room. This makes it difficult for both babies to survive. In such cases, veterinarians perform a procedure called twin reduction, or manual embryo reduction. This is usually done early in the pregnancy by manually pinching or crushing one of the embryos to give the remaining one a better chance of survival. Although, there have been times when both foals did make it. Take the incredible case of Destiny, an Irish horse at the Gas and Farm Studs in England. Horses at the farm are sold legally for profit, so when Destiny's owner, Tanya McKee, realized she was pregnant, she made sure Destiny received extra care, but no one was prepared for what happened next. After Destiny gave birth to her first foal, something shocking happened. Just a few minutes later, she delivered a second baby. It was an extremely rare occurrence and a real surprise. Both Destiny and her identical twins survived. Every time twin foals are born, it's an amazing and rare sight. But their survival isn't always guaranteed. They can be born weak or too early, and caring for 2 at once can be tough on the mother. And triplets? That's even rarer, with the chances of all 3 surviving being extremely low. So anytime you see a horse with a huge stomach like this, that's a risky and rare twin or triplet pregnancy. The colossal kiwi's huge eggs. Imagine being pregnant with a baby that is half of your body weight. Impossible, right? Well, for humans, yes, but this funny-looking bird, it's a norm. Meet the colossal kiwi. Looking at this bird, you'd notice something strange in its body features. Unlike other birds, it has longer legs that appear strong with long pointy beaks. Also, the colossal kiwi has hair-like feathers, and it cannot fly. One of the most fascinating things about the kiwi is the size of the eggs they lay. One of the kiwi's eggs is the size of 6 chicken eggs, which is about 25% of the body weight of the kiwi. During the gestation period, the kiwi eats more food than normal because it requires a lot of food to help develop the egg. Also, during this time, the kiwi is weak and uncomfortable because of the weight of the egg. To reduce this discomfort, the kiwi looks for a cool puddle of water and sits on it just to feel relieved. After laying its eggs, it takes at least 80 days to hatch, revealing its giant chick. It's like a human giving birth to a 7-year-old child. The porcupine painful birth. The kiwi should count itself lucky because the porcupines have it worse. No, they don't lay eggs. You see, the sharp protective spine that the porcupine can easily be identified with can be as dangerous to the porcupine as it is protective. This is especially dangerous to the mother porcupine. Baby porcupines are not born hairless like other rodents. They are covered with soft, sharp quills instead. At birth, sometimes the porcupines face a different direction. When this happens, quills will stick to the inner lining of the mother's birth canal, causing her so much pain and discomfort. Mysterious snake births. One reptile that would always leave your skin crawling is a snake. Apart from being fascinating, they all have unique reproductive processes. Snakes have different species, which makes their gestation vary. They can either be oviparous, which lays eggs, or viviparous, which gives birth to their young babies fully developed. For oviparous snakes, the gestation period happens between the time of mating and when the eggs are laid. This ranges from 30 to 90 days. After laying the eggs, the female might leave the eggs, or she may decide to stay and keep them warm. These eggs develop over several weeks, and when the eggs hatch, the hatchlings come out fully developed and ready to fend for themselves. But this is different for the viviparous snakes. They give birth to their young alive and fully developed rather than laying eggs. Their gestation period is similar to mammals. It can last between 3 to 6 months. During this time, the embryo is fully developed in the body of the mother snake. After birth, they are dependent on their mother. Unlike the oviparous snakes, their mother needs to teach them survival skills before they can fend for themselves. Whether egg-laying or live birthing, these videos captured of snakes birthing their next generation is very incredible. Goodbye, mother octopus. This is the most bizarre process of birthing caught on camera. During the mating season, the male and female octopus meet and then leave after the season is over. The female leaves to find a suitable place to lay her eggs. The gestation period can last for several weeks depending on the species. This period is called brooding. She lays thousands of eggs which she attaches to the den or crevice. When she finds the perfect spot, she doesn't leave that spot for any reason, even to get food. She natures the eggs, carefully cleaning them to ensure they have enough oxygen. This period is very tasking for her. All the octomom can think of is her eggs. In fact, the part of her brain that urges her to eat shuts down. When the body doesn't eat, it shuts down. And that's exactly what happens to the octopus. She starves to death protecting her eggs. Darting snails. Reproduction in snails is a job well done. Did you know snails are hermaphrodite? That's right. Every snail you see carries both the male and female reproductive organs. No wonder there are so many snails on the planet. How many are we talking about? About 43,000 different species. All of these species can be found on land, fresh water, and even salt water. What's more intriguing about snails is how they reproduce. Because each snail has a complete reproductive system, they come together to exchange sperm to fertilize each other's eggs. Now, here is one trick about the snail's reproduction. They always have to perform a special type of courtship dance called darting. This dance involves shooting calcium spikes on their partner to stimulate each other. Darting is very important in the process of snail reproduction because it increases their chances of reproduction and having healthy eggs. Now, after the dancing and reproduction process is over, each snail departs to look for a moist ground to lay their eggs, and each snail can lay up to 100 eggs at once. So next time you see a snail, just know that it probably has a better love life than you. Hyenas. Believe it or not, female spotted hyenas have the most unbearable birth experience. This is because their genitals are no different from that of the male hyenas. As females, they have a complete reproductive system with a bonus. You see, the female spotted hyenas possess what is scientifically called a pseudopenis and pseudoscrotum, just like the male hyenas. And it's not what you're thinking, they are not hermaphrodites. This pseudopenis has the structure of male genitals, but does perform the functions of the male genitals. That's why it's called a pseudo, which means false. But this is a very big problem for the hyena because during mating, she has to retract his genitals into her body to properly mate. And to make matters worse, the spotted hyena has to give birth through this 1-inch wide, 23-inch long genital. What's a word heavier than brutal? During birth, 60% of cubs get stuck, suffocate, and die. This is worse for the mother hyena because her possibility of survival is thin. Statistics show that over 15% of spotted hyenas die from childbirth. What happens if the mother and cub survive? Well, good for the cub, but the hyena's genitalia usually tear, causing her so much pain and discomfort. After everything, her genitals would never look the same again. This is a sad birth process. What do you think about this? Let us know in the comment section. Velvet spiders, ungrateful babies. Speaking of mothers dying during childbirth, the velvet spider has it worse. Do you know how fragile babies are and cannot feed on their own? And the mom has to chew up food for them? Well, the velvet spiders took theirs to a whole different level. Now, after laying eggs, the inner tissue of the velvet spider starts to decay and become liquefied. When the spiderlings hatch, she regurgitates her whole system, which is now liquid, and feeds them to her spiderlings. As if this is not wild enough, when she has nothing left to regurgitate, her whole spiderlings would gather around her and eat every inch of her till she became an empty husk. After they are done, they all find their separate part in the wild. This is a cold consequence of giving birth. Jawfish busymouth. Apart from their relatively big jaws, which might just be the reason why this species of fish is called a jawfish, the birthing process for the jawfish is quite similar to that of the velvet spider, but it's also completely different. When the female jawfish lays her eggs, she has nothing to do with the eggs again, but the male jawfish picks them all up with its mouth. This process is called mouth breeding. Looking at this full mouth of these eggs, you'd agree that fatherhood is indeed a mouthful. These eggs can spend over a month in the mouth of the jawfish, and while the eggs are in his mouth, he doesn't eat. The only thing he does is occasionally spit the eggs out and collect them back immediately. This process ensures equal oxidation. Like the velvet spider, the eggs feed on their father, but they do not kill him. As the eggs hatch, the jawfish release them into the ocean. The Lion Queen. Movies like The Lion King have helped us build appreciation for this majestic animal. Known for their social behavior and powerful presence, the lions have, over the years, earned the title King of the Jungle, rightfully. Let's learn about how young lions come about, shall we? When it comes to gestation, lions have a specific gestation period of 100 days. These long days are crucial for the development of the embryo. During this period, the lioness has to be very careful and care for herself to ensure the safety of her baby. She does this but has been less active, not hunting and focusing more on resting and eating. Another thing she needs to do is carefully look for a safe and isolated place away from the pride to give birth. This is to ensure the safety of her cub from predators and rival lions. At birth, the cubs are usually full of furs, blind and deaf. These also appear to be very small and weigh just 1 or 2 pounds. After birth, they rely fully on their mother for food, warmth, and protection. The lioness feeds her cubs with milk and remains in the hidden spot. A few weeks after birth, the cubs' eyes are now fully open, and they immediately start exploring their environment with their curious eyes and tiny feet. But they never go far from their mother's protection. Gradually, after a few weeks, they'll join the pride and learn how to interact with other lions and learn how to hunt on their own. Seahorses. This clip shows how seahorses mate during the mating season. After mating, gestation takes about 2 to 3 weeks. And like the jawfish, the male carries the eggs, but this time in its stomach, like a pregnant woman. Okay, no, it's nothing like a pregnant woman, but looking at this seahorse, what else comes to your mind? The male seahorse possesses a tummy pouch like the kangaroo, and it keeps all the eggs there until they are ready to hatch. After hatching, the male seahorse can release up to 1,000 seahorse babies all at once. Would the seahorse survive? Interestingly, yes. The male seahorses can quickly recover and are ready to receive a new batch of eggs from a female soon after giving birth. That's a super dad. 22-month pregnant elephants. When it comes to being big, bold, and intelligent, the elephant has it all and more. This majestic creature holds the trophy for being the only land mammal with the highest gestation period of 22 months. That's almost 2 whole years. Have you or anyone you know been pregnant for this long? If so, let us know in the comment section. You see, this long gestation period is critical for the development of their info, not called a calf. At birth, the calf grows up to 200 pounds to 250, which is almost the size of an adult human. Because of how huge the calf can be, an elephant always gives birth to just 1 baby, but on rare occasions, they are 2. Birthing of an elephant always happens in a nearly secluded place, away from the herd, to reduce the risk of predators and give the mother privacy. Just 20 minutes after birth, the elephant is seen standing, and within just 2 days, it's already walking with the herd. Do you see why their gestation stays so long? the elephant needs to catch up with the herd and keep moving to avoid slowing them down and surviving in the savanna. The hanging mama sloths. Moving on, in this video, we see a hairy animal hanging on a tree, and it's having a baby. The sloth is one fascinating animal, especially because of how slow they usually are. Two-fingered sloth always gives birth to a single baby with a gestation period of 11.5 months, while the three-fingered sloth gives birth way quicker with a gestation to a period of 6 months. When it's time to give birth, the mother will usually descend a little bit lower to the canopy branches and give birth while hanging upside down, just like in this video. In this position, if the baby falls to the ground, it won't fall far and hurt itself, and the mother can climb down slowly to retrieve her young. The afterbirth or placenta usually falls to the forest floor, and female sloths climb down to the ground to eat it. Don't be irritated. It is very common for animals in the wild to ingest the afterbirth, even herbivores like sloths. Probably it's for a nutritional boost or to avoid attracting the attention of predators. No one knows. A baby sloth is born fully developed and ready to face the world with eyes open, sharp claws, and fully formed teeth. Instinctively, it clings to its mother's fur immediately after birth and crawls up towards the safety of her chest, where she begins the process of cleaning the young with her mouth. The weight and size of baby sloths differ between species. A newborn baby sloth typically weighs between 300 to 500 grams, but three-fingered babies often weigh less than two-fingered babies. This baby sloth, although fully developed, is fully reliant on its mother to teach it how to survive in the canopy of the rainforest. Fascinating pregnancy of alpacas. The fascinating thing about the alpacas is their careful pregnancy and birth behavior, which helps ensure the safety of both the mother and newborn baby. Their gestation period lasts for about 11.5 months or something, roughly the whole year. This period is quite similar to that of a human, but human pregnancies are shorter. During the pregnancy, the female alpaca, called a dam, will go through various stages of development. In the first stage, the baby, called cria, is usually tiny but grows very fast. At this stage, the mother has to feed more. When it's time for birth, which is called parturition, which happens mostly in the morning or afternoon, the dam gives birth standing up, which helps the baby to be born in a clean environment and avoid potential contamination. The birth itself is usually quick and smooth. After birth, the carria will be able to stand and walk within a few hours, though it might need some assistance at first. The dam will clean the criae and ensure it starts nursing, which is crucial for the baby to get essential nutrients and antibodies from its mother's milk. Giraffes on-feet births. Every human mom knows how tough it is to carry a child for 9 months. The giraffes have it tougher. Because their gestation period isn't 9 or 10 months, it's 15 months. That is a total of 470 days. Why does gestation take so long for giraffes? This video answers that question. It shows how strong the legs of a calf are a few hours after birth. This is a necessary adaptive property needed for the calf to survive hunger predictors in the dangerous savanna. While giving birth, the giraffe stands straight because sitting down could break the neck of the long calf. During delivery, the first 2 legs come out first before its head, and then the rest of its body falls to the ground. Usually the calf weighs about 100 to 150 pounds, with a height of over 6 feet. These calves are huge. Amazingly, studies show that calves grow up to 2.5 centimeters every day during their first week after birth. Immediately after birth, they are seen standing, walking, and even eating. Baby giraffes are born ready to survive the hungry savanna. Frogs' vocal sacs. Typically, frogs lay their eggs in the water. These eggs hatch into aquatic larvae called tadpoles that have tails and internal gills. But the case is different with the Darwin frogs. They have the weirdest birth process that is different from other species of frogs. When the female lays the eggs, her mate swallows all the eggs. No, he isn't eating them. He simply places them in his vocal sac. This is just his way of projecting the eggs from predictors and making sure all the eggs get fertilized. During this period, the male frogs starve for 8 weeks, which is the gestation period required for the egg to transform into a full frog. So the eggs hatch in its vocal sac, and he spits out fully formed frogs one by one, exposing the froglets to the wild to experience life and continue the circle. Overly protective mother alligator. Despite having one of the deadliest bits, the alligator is one of the most careful nature mummies. When the alligator is ready to lay her eggs, she leaves the water in a place on land not too far from the river. She finds a good spot to dig a hole, lay her eggs, and cover them up. Although she leaves after laying her eggs, she never goes far. And for 3 long months, she constantly checks on the eggs. But since she buried the eggs, how would she know when the eggs hatch? Like a crying child seeking its mother's comfort, the baby alligator makes a chirping sound, which alerts the mother about her hatchling. Quickly, she comes to her hatchling and scoops all of them gently into her throat pouch, leaving no baby behind. While in her mouth, she takes them to the water, where they are safest, because these baby alligators are so small and fragile that other animals might feed on them. Now it's time for our subscriber's pick. This image sent to us by a subscriber shows a horse that's heavily pregnant. Looking at this image, this horse might just give birth to an entire country. This image is photoshopped, but it gives a clear image of how a pregnant horse looks during gestation. The gestation period for horses is usually even months, and during this period, noticeable changes are seen in the horses, one of which is their huge stomach. The horse's belly expands to fully accommodate the baby horse called the foal, which grows and fully develops inside its mother. Like humans, labor for horses is a nightmare. The experience series contraction. You won't believe what this horse gave birth to. Lying down, it pushes their foal out with its protective sac. After the birth, they carefully lick and care for the newborn horse. What do you think about this image and the gestation period of horses? Let us know in the comments section. The backup baby. This also joins the list of strange births in animals. It is called the back-to-up baby. This animal is called the quokkas. During its 28 days gestation, the quokkas always have 2 babies growing in her womb. But she gives birth to a baby called Joey. The other baby will remain in her womb as a backup plan in case anything happens to Joey. And if something did happen, the backup baby would be fully developed and birthed. Joey, on the other hand, cannot survive on its own, so it lives in the sac of its mother for 6 months, and after 6 months, it still needs an extra month to depend on its mother for food before facing the world. Crab's protective egg sac. Crabs have a fascinating way of reproducing. This begins during the start of the rainy season. This time, the male moves to the coast of the ocean. The female is always the one to look for a mate to pair with. After mating, the female crab carries eggs under her abdomen, tucked away in a special area called the egg sac. The gestation period, which is the time the eggs stay inside the female crab before hatching, varies depending on the crab species and environmental conditions. This period lasts between 2 to 3 weeks. The eggs are protected and carried by the female crab until they are ready to hatch. When the eggs are about to hatch, the female crab releases them into the water. This usually happens when the tide is right. The eggs hatch into tiny larvae, which are very different from adult crabs. These larvae are called zoai. Zoai are tiny, transparent, and have a different body shape compared to mature crabs. They drift with the ocean currents and go through several stages, changing their shape and size as they grow. After this stage, they transform into another larval stage called megalopi. Megalopi look more like small crabs, but are still not fully developed. They eventually settle on the seafloor, where they grow into adult crabs through a series of molts. Each molt is a stage where they shed their old exoskeleton and grow a new, larger one. Interesting metamorphosis, right? Sneaky raccoons. These fascinating animals are known for their intelligence and adaptability. They are usually medium-sized mammals that are easily recognizable by their distinctive black mask of fur around their eyes and their bushy, ringed tail. They are omnivores, meaning they eat a wide variety of foods. Their diet includes fruits, insects, small animals, and even garbage in urban areas. They are particularly known for their dexterous front paws, which they use almost like hands to manipulate objects and open containers. This is why you see raccoons are often seen rummaging through trash cans or exploring human habitats. For their reproduction, female raccoons usually give birth just once a year, typically in the spring. The gestation period, or the time the female raccoon carries her babies before they are born, is about 63 days. After this period, she gives birth to about 3 to 7 babies called kits, though the number can vary. The kits are born blind and helpless, relying entirely on their mother for warmth and food. The mother raccoon takes care of her young in a den, which can be located in hollow trees, abandoned burrows, or sometimes even in attics and sheds. In about 3 weeks, the kits start to open their eyes and begin to explore their surroundings a few weeks later. By the time they are around 12 weeks old, they are ready to start learning how to find food and survive on their own. But they don't usually leave their mother's side just immediately. Kangaroo's pouch. The kangaroos have a unique and fascinating birthing process that is different from many other animals. The gestation period for a kangaroo, which is the time a baby spends developing inside the mother's womb, is quite short compared to other mammals. It lasts only for about 30 to 36 days. The baby is then born called joey, is then born prematurely at its early stage of development. When the joey is born, it is very tiny and weighs less than a gram. It looks like a pink, hairless bean. After birth, the mother doesn't pick it up like the alligators. Joey crawls its way into the mother's pouch. This pouch is a special feature of female kangaroos that serves as a protective and nurturing environment. The pouch is warm and has a special lining that helps the joey attach to one of the mother's teats. Once inside the pouch, the joey continues to grow and develop. It stays in the pouch for several months, feeding on the mother's milk and gaining strength. During this time, the joey gradually starts to grow fur and develop the features of an adult kangaroo. As joey matures,